Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The wedding invitations were already at the printers. The venue had been paid for. Her dress, an ivory mermaid gown with lace sleeves, hung delicately on her closet door like a ghost of a dream. Leona Adigwe should have been the happiest woman alive. But she couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. At 29, she was supposed to be building her forever with the man she loved, Derek Okoye. Handsome, ambitious, and charming. They had been together for 3 years. Everyone said they looked perfect together. But under Leona's perfectly applied makeup and graceful smile was a woman in pieces. She jolted awake again, 2:47 a.m. Another nightmare. She sat on the edge of her bed, pressed her palm against her chest and tried to breathe. It's okay, Leona. It's just a dream. He's here. He loves you. You're safe. But her heart wouldn't believe her mouth. Ever since her childhood, Leona had battled anxiety. Her father had left when she was 9. Her mother coped by pretending everything was fine. But silence doesn't erase pain. Now, as her wedding approached, Leona's body was remembering everything she had tried to forget. Panic attacks, restlessness, fear of abandonment, and a haunting sense that something wasn't quite right. Derek stirred beside her. "Babe, you okay?" he mumbled sleepily. Leona glanced at him. His arm was draped across the bed like a lazy promise. "Yeah, I just couldn't sleep." He kissed her shoulder. "Don't overthink. Everything's going to be fine." She nodded. But something in her chest tightened. 2 days later, she sat in the tastefully minimal office of Dr. Thelma Akan, a licensed therapist with rave reviews and a soft, cultured voice. Books lined the white shelves behind her, and a small diffuser filled the room with the scent of lavender and bergamot. Leona's fingers twisted in her lap. "Let's start wherever you feel safe," Thelma said gently. Leona took a deep breath. "I'm getting married. In 5 weeks. To a wonderful man. But I'm panicking. All the time." "Have you felt like this before?" "Yes," she nodded. "When I was a child. My father, he left. I never knew why. One morning he just didn't come back. I used to wait by the gate. Every evening." "And what does your fiancé say when you tell him how you feel?" Leona smiled faintly. "He says I overthink. That I should stop letting the past control me. He's supportive, but not emotionally detailed." Thelma leaned forward. "And how do you feel when he says that?" "Alone," Leona whispered. Thelma didn't speak immediately. Her eyes held Leona's for a moment longer than necessary. Then she scribbled something in her notebook. "Thank you for sharing that. I think we have some work to do together." Leona felt the smallest flicker of relief. A few sessions in, Leona began to open up more. "I used to check his phone," she admitted one evening. Thelma tilted her head. "Why?" "I guess I was scared. I didn't want to admit it. But he used to be a flirt when we met. He says that's the past. But sometimes I still feel like I don't fully know him." "And what happens when you bring this up?" "He gets defensive. Says he's not cheating, and that I should trust him more." "Do you?" Leona hesitated. "I try." "Trying is not trusting," Thelma said carefully. Leona blinked. That sentence stayed with her for days. One afternoon, as they sipped fresh mango smoothies on the balcony, Derek was scrolling through his phone while Leona talked about the venue's last-minute request for a permit. He barely nodded. "Are you even listening?" she finally snapped. "Of course. Babe, I just got a text from a client." "Relax. I'm not some project you can multitask," she muttered. "Why are you so tense lately? I can't breathe around you without it turning into drama." Leona stood and walked back inside. Derek followed. "Don't walk away from me, Leona." She turned. "I'm not walking away. I'm drowning. And you're just dry." He ran his hand through his hair. "Maybe you need to talk to that therapist more. I think you're projecting." Leona's stomach churned. "I do talk to her. A lot." Derek softened. "Good. Then maybe she'll help you stop worrying about ghosts." That night, Leona lay awake again. Derek was asleep beside her, breathing steadily. But her mind was anything but steady. Something about how he spoke of Thelma felt too familiar. The next session, Leona smiled when she mentioned Derek. "He's been more present lately. Maybe he's just stressed about work." Thelma raised a brow. "Has he said that?" "No. I just assumed." "You do that a lot. Fill in silences with your own logic. Why don't you ask him directly?" Leona nodded. "You're right." Thelma leaned back, crossing her legs slowly. And if you do, be prepared for the answer. Not every silence is harmless. Leona sat very still. The week before her next appointment, Derek canceled their date night. He claimed he had to stay late at work for a meeting with a special client. But Leona, unable to shake the growing unease, opened her Find My Phone app. The shared location popped up. He was not at his office. He was in a small private clinic across town. Her fingers trembled. She stared at the screen. The clinic name rang a bell. Wasn't that near Thelma's practice? She zoomed in. It was the same building. Leona's lips parted, but no sound came out. She didn't confront him that night. Instead, she typed a long note in her phone titled, Truth? Read. If I'm right, I'll break. If I'm wrong, I'll still break. But one thing's for sure, my peace is not negotiable. She pressed save and locked her screen. The next morning, her phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Thelma. Hi Leona, I had to shift today's session to 5 p.m. Hope that's okay. Leona stared at it. Her fingers hovered. Sure. I'll be there early. The clinic always smelled like lavender and quiet. That day it also smelled like doubt. Leona sat across from Thelma, legs crossed, heart thudding. Thanks for adjusting the time, she began. Thelma smiled warmly. Of course. My 3 p.m. canceled. Her hair was neatly wrapped in a silk scarf, and her skin glowed beneath soft makeup. There was a subtle shift, an extra gloss on her lips, a subtle hint of vanilla perfume. Leona hadn't noticed those things before. She wasn't even sure why she noticed now. How have you been since our last session? Thelma asked. Restless, Leona confessed. But I'm trying to focus on the wedding. Everyone says I should be glowing right now. I just feel exposed. You're doing something brave, Thelma said, her voice soothing. Unpacking old wounds and facing your future. That's more than most people ever attempt. Leona managed to smile. Derek doesn't get it. He says I overthink things. But lately, I've been noticing changes in him. Changes? Thelma echoed, subtly stilling her pen. Leona nodded. He's colder. More emotionally absent. And he hides his phone. Thelma maintained a neutral face. Do you think he's hiding something? I don't know, Leona whispered. Maybe. But he swears he's loyal. Thelma leaned forward. You mentioned he used to be a flirt? Yeah, when we first met. That's why I get triggered easily. And he's aware of your history with abandonment? He is. But he treats it like something I should have outgrown. Thelma paused, tapping her pen against the notebook. Leona, you've shared so much with me. But let me ask, has Derek ever made you feel like your trust wasn't safe? Leona blinked. He's never hit me or anything, if that's what you mean. I mean emotionally, Thelma clarified. Safe to be vulnerable. Safe to feel. Leona's throat tightened. No, she admitted. Not always. Thelma's smile was gentle. Then maybe the issue isn't just your past. Maybe it's the present too. Leona's thoughts were a swirl. As she stood to leave, Thelma gave a lingering smile. You're stronger than you know, Leona. Keep listening to yourself. That night, Leona cooked Derek's favorite meal, okra soup and pounded yam. She waited, candles lit, music soft. He arrived an hour late. Sorry, babe. Traffic, he said, kissing her cheek half-heartedly. No call? My battery died. She watched as he picked at the food. You're quiet, she said. Long day. You've had a lot of long days lately. He looked up. Leona, don't start. I'm not starting. I'm observing. Are you accusing me of something? She leaned back. Should I be? His eyes darkened. I think your therapist is putting things in your head. Leona's fork froze midair. Excuse me? You've been different since you started seeing her. Questioning everything. I started therapy because I couldn't breathe, Derek. And now you're blaming the oxygen? Derek stood. I'm done with this conversation. As he stormed off, Leona whispered to herself, so am I. At her next session, Leona recounted the argument. Thelma frowned. Defensiveness is a form of deflection. He may be hiding something, or he simply refuses accountability. I just don't want to become paranoid, Leona said. I love him. I want to believe him. Thelma nodded. Love doesn't mean ignoring patterns. Sometimes love means protecting yourself. As Leona left that day, she noticed something strange. A pair of men's cufflinks on the corner table. Sleek gold and oddly familiar. Her heart thudded. She kept walking. Leona had planned the rooftop dinner for weeks. Private chef. A violinist. Everything to remind Derek why they fell in love. That morning he texted, "Babe, client meeting tonight. Rain check. No apology. No emoji. Just cold efficiency." Her hands trembled as she read it. She tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Something snapped in her. She opened her laptop and typed, "Find my phone." They still shared locations from months ago when she lost her keys. There it was. Derek's icon. At 6:03 p.m. he was nowhere near his office. Her heart galloped. She zoomed in on the map. Thelma's building. Clinic lights dimmed early on Wednesdays. The office should be closed. Unless he wasn't the client. She paced the living room. Back and forth. Her breath hitched. She clutched her chest. Then something inside her hardened. She grabbed her coat, her phone, and keys. She wasn't going to confront. She was going to confirm. The lobby was quiet. Leona stood outside the frosted glass door of Thelma's office, heart in her throat. It was 4:47 p.m. Her session was scheduled for 5. But the light was already on. She moved slowly down the hallway. As she got closer, she heard it. A giggle. Hers. She froze. Then a soft male voice. "You're bad, Derek." Leona pressed herself to the wall, slowly peering through the barely cracked door. There, laughing in her swivel chair, was Thelma. Legs crossed. Hair undone. Derek sat on the sofa, shirt half unbuttoned, holding a champagne flute. "Someone might see," he said, but he was grinning. Thelma laughed. "That's part of the thrill." Leona couldn't breathe. She stepped back, her palm covering her mouth. Her body started shaking. Her therapist. Her safe place. And her fiancé. Her world blurred. Her vision dimmed. Her knees weakened. But she didn't fall. She turned and walked away, numb, shattered, but somehow burning. Leona drove without remembering the route. Streetlights blurred into streaks. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles whitened. Her breathing was shallow, eyes wide, lips trembling. She parked in front of her apartment and sat there. For 5 minutes. Then 10. Her mind replayed it again. Thelma. Derek. Laughing. Kissing. Drinking. That cracked door might as well have been a gunshot to her soul. She finally opened her door, climbed the stairs, and entered her apartment like a ghost. Her hands were steady, but everything inside her trembled. She went to the bathroom, turned on the faucet, and splashed cold water on her face. A reflection stared back. Not the broken bride-to-be. Not even a heartbroken woman. But someone awakening. She dropped to her knees. Her stomach churned. She threw up into the sink. Then wiped her mouth, stood tall, and whispered, "They think I'm weak." She walked to the bedroom and stared at the photos on the nightstand. Her and Derek at the beach, smiling in white, framed by sunset. She picked it up and placed it in the drawer. Then she opened a new note in her phone and titled it, "Receipts." The next morning, Leona made eggs. She wore Derek's favorite silk robe and even placed a sprig of mint on his juice glass. When he walked in, freshly showered and humming, her stomach turned, but her face didn't show it. "Whoa," he said, surprised. "Breakfast." She smiled. "You've been so stressed. I wanted to spoil you a little." He leaned down and kissed her cheek. "You're incredible." She took a mental snapshot of his lie. "I thought you had a meeting with Thelma last night," he added, buttering toast. "I did," she said smoothly. She had to reschedule. He nodded without blinking. "Figures. That woman's always double booking." Her smile never faltered. "Right?" They ate in silence. Every word she didn't say stacked like bricks inside her. Later that night, while Derek snored beside her, Leona turned her phone on silent and opened a new folder. Operation Truth. She uploaded screenshots of past texts, logged locations, dates of cancellations. She remembered everything. Every lie. Every shift in tone. Every session Thelma subtly pushed her to doubt herself. They'd underestimated her. Leona became a master of the silent game. She attended her therapy sessions. Smiled. Nodded. Sometimes even cried. Just enough to keep Thelma's guard down. "I think I'm beginning to trust Derek again," she said one day, studying Thelma's eyes. "Good," Thelma said too quickly. "Progress takes time." Leona tilted her head. "You think he's capable of hurting me?" Thelma paused. "Emotionally? Anyone is. But I'm not here to pick sides." "Of course." Back home, she lay beside Derek, pretending to sleep while he scrolled through his phone. At exactly 11:42 p.m. he locked it, rolled over, and kissed her neck. She fought every muscle not to flinch. The next day she ordered a small voice recorder and a discreet camera pin from an online store. She practiced pretending to be confused, practiced her tone, her facial expression. Tell me again what you see in her, she rehearsed in the mirror. Pretend I'm just curious. She sent herself reminders. Labeled everything. On her fridge she wrote one line. You don't heal by forgetting, you heal by remembering everything they hoped you'd ignore. Rena poured her a glass of wine and narrowed her eyes. Run that back again. Leona inhaled. I walked in. They didn't see me. I saw everything. Rena, her cousin and best friend since childhood, was a final-year law intern, sharp, precise, and fiercely loyal. You have actual proof? She asked. Not yet. I've been gathering data. Calls, locations, transcripts. I just ordered a camera and wire. Rena leaned back, processing. Leona, this is beyond betrayal. It's an ethical and legal minefield. I want to expose them both. And you will, Rena said. Let's talk strategy. She grabbed her laptop. Your therapist crossed multiple boundaries. If she's sleeping with your fiancé, your case falls under emotional abuse, malpractice, and professional misconduct. Leona's eyes widened. They won't get away with this? No. And if we build this right, it'll cost them everything. But you need solid, irrefutable evidence. Not just emotion. Leona nodded. Then I'll get it. And Derek? Leona looked her cousin in the eye. He's the bait. She's the spider. But I'm the storm. Rena smirked. That's my girl. Leona's heart pounded beneath her fitted blouse. The camera was clipped beneath the lapel. The mic wire ran down to her waistband. Her phone, voice recorder app running, was hidden in her purse. She sat in Thelma's office and took a slow breath. You look radiant today, Thelma said. Thanks, Leona replied. I've been thinking a lot about intimacy. Thelma raised an eyebrow. With Derek. Leona nodded slowly. You ever feel like you're connected to someone in a way that feels forbidden but magnetic? Thelma shifted. That's a layered question. I mean hypothetically, Leona continued. If someone like you had feelings for someone like Derek, how would they navigate that? Thelma chuckled nervously. Why do you ask? Leona gave a little shrug. You seem to know him. You've given some specific advice. Thelma paused. Derek and I have crossed paths outside this room. That's true. Leona feigned surprise. Really? We didn't mean for it to happen, Thelma said suddenly, lowering her voice. He came to me for advice, then feelings grew. It's complicated. Leona's throat closed. But she kept her face unreadable. And you think it's love? She asked. Thelma's face softened. He told me. I make him feel seen. Click. The audio file saved. The camera blinked once. All captured. Leona stood, smiling faintly. Thanks, Dr. Thelma. That's all I needed to hear. As she stepped out into the hallway, her fingers trembled. But her spine was straight. Because now, she had everything. Leona double-checked the files for the 5th time. Her laptop screen glowed against the dark room, casting shadows on her tired eyes. Folders labeled audio, video, transcripts, and receipts sat neatly arranged on her desktop. She opened the audio folder and replayed the last session. We didn't mean for it to happen. It's complicated. He told me. I make him feel seen. Thelma's voice crackled through the speaker, each word slicing through the silence like a blade. Leona clenched her fist. She dragged the audio file into a secured cloud drive. Password protected. Folder name, 4-piece. Her phone buzzed. Text from Rena. We're ready when you are. Just say the word. Leona exhaled. Not yet, she whispered. Let them keep dancing. She then opened her camera roll. A grainy freeze frame showed Thelma smiling, her fingers brushing Derek's knee. Another showed Derek grinning like a teenage boy with a crush. She closed the files, shut the laptop, and stood up. On her mirror, she wrote in lipstick. Pain ends. Power begins. The party was grand, just how Derek liked it. Gold streamers hung from the ceilings of the rented rooftop venue. A live saxophonist played soft Afro jazz while guests mingled in luxury. Leona wore a body-hugging black dress with gold accents. Her hair was in soft curls. Every inch of her was regal. Derek was all smiles, greeting guests with a champagne flute in one hand and his other arm draped over Leona's shoulder. Thelma arrived late, wearing a crimson dress and bold red lipstick. She kept a professional distance but shot Derek knowing glances. Leona noticed every single one. When the cake was rolled out, Derek laughed. You outdid yourself, babe. She smiled sweetly. That's not all. I have a surprise. She walked over to the AV table and whispered to the DJ. The lights dimmed. Everyone, she called, before we eat, Derek, I made you a video. Just a tribute. From me to you. The screen came alive. The first minute was a montage of sweet memories, beach trips, birthday kisses, their engagement. Guests cooed and smiled. Then it shifted. A clip played. He told me, I make him feel seen. We didn't mean for it to happen. Thelma's voice filled the air. The video cut to footage. Derek and Thelma laughing together in the office, blurry but unmistakable. Then screenshots of text messages. Then his GPS location pinned at Thelma's clinic, time-stamped. Then a picture of him holding Thelma's hand at the door. Gasps exploded from the crowd. Silence followed. Derek's mouth hung open. Thelma looked ready to bolt. Leona stepped forward. Her voice calm. You made my healing your hunting ground. Both of you. She picked up her purse, nodded at the stunned guests and walked out. No tears. No breakdown. Just silence and a slow, deafening clap from Rena in the corner. The aftermath was chaos. People whispered. Some guests followed Leona. Others stood frozen, unsure whether to comfort Derek or chase the woman who had just turned betrayal into a standing ovation. Derek stumbled toward the DJ booth. Turn that off. But it was too late. The damage was done. Thelma looked around and realized no one was meeting her gaze. Her crimson lipstick, once bold, now looked clownish. She turned to Derek. You said she didn't suspect anything. She didn't, he snapped, panic in his voice. She must have planted something. You're the therapist, why didn't you know? Because I underestimated her, Thelma hissed. Meanwhile, outside, Rena caught up to Leona. You didn't just break their masks, you vaporized them. Leona didn't smile. I'm not done. That night, she uploaded every file to her lawyer, who forwarded them to the Medical Ethics Board. Then she filed a misconduct report through official legal channels, with the full documentation. The email subject line read, Therapist-patient boundary violation plus evidence. She then sent a copy to Thelma's clinic. Just one line. I trusted you. Now you'll face the mirror. It didn't take long for everything to fall apart. A week after the video, Thelma's clinic posted a statement. Dr. Thelma Akan is on administrative leave pending a full investigation. The medical board reached out for an official inquiry. She was suspended from private sessions. Lawsuits loomed from multiple patients who began questioning their boundaries with her. Some spoke out. Others filed complaints of their own. But the bigger shock came for Derek. His company, one of Thelma's top clients, opened an HR review. The result? Violation of ethical partnerships between personnel and contracted professionals. Effective immediately, Mr. Derek Okoye is terminated. He lost his job. His apartment lease was in Leona's name. His public image, a clean-cut businessman, was stained. He tried calling Leona. Blocked. He texted. Ignored. He even went to Rena's workplace. She met him in the parking lot. She doesn't want to see you, she said coldly. I need to apologize. She needed peace. You gave her trauma. I didn't mean. No one ever does. But actions have receipts. She turned and walked away, heels clicking like justice. Leona didn't bask in the destruction. She didn't post anything. Didn't speak to the press. Didn't vent on social media. She disappeared. She took a break from work and checked into a quiet coastal town. She rented a small apartment and joined a local trauma support center. First as a participant, then as a volunteer. One Thursday afternoon, she stood in front of a group of 5 women and introduced herself. My name is Leona. I was betrayed by the person who was supposed to help me heal, and by the man I thought I'd spend my life with. They listened. Some days I still wake up wondering if I imagined it all. But I didn't. I lived it. And I'm still here. Afterward, one of the younger women walked up to her and hugged her tightly. Thank you, she whispered. I thought I was going crazy too. Leona smiled. A real one. Later that evening she took a walk by the shore. The waves crashed softly, the sky bled into orange. She closed her eyes and breathed deep. This was the beginning of something new. Not survival. Resurrection. The knock came late, almost midnight. Leona had just returned from the trauma center. Her body was tired, but her spirit, lighter than it had been in months. She checked the peephole. Derek. Hair unkempt. Eyes bloodshot. Suit wrinkled and stained. The man who once walked like a king now stood like a beggar. Leona opened the door halfway, arms folded. He stared at her. Leo? No one's called me that in weeks, she replied, voice calm. Can I come in? No. He swallowed hard. I lost everything. You threw everything away. I made a mistake, he whispered. I thought I needed someone to understand me. But I didn't realize you were the only one who ever really did. She leaned against the frame. You lied to me. Slept with my therapist. You gaslit me while she took notes about my trauma. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Leona shook her head. You always say that. Every excuse has an expiration date, Derek. Yours expired the moment I saw you with her. He stepped forward. Please. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I think about you every day. You think about the version of me that let you lie, she said coldly. That version died. Tears filled his eyes. I'm begging. Leona stared for a long moment. Then softly, you said I overthink. But I was right. You said I was paranoid. But I saw clearly. And now all I see when I look at you is silence. She closed the door without another word. And locked it. Behind it she exhaled, and felt nothing but peace. Leona hadn't intended for her story to go public. But the truth had a way of finding light. Rena forwarded her a link titled, When Healing Hurts, Therapist-Patient Boundaries and the Case That's Rocking the Industry. Written by Temedeo Banjo, a mental health journalist known for tackling ethical issues. The article didn't name Leona, but every detail was unmistakable to those who knew. Read. Sources confirmed that a popular Lagos-based therapist is under review for engaging in an inappropriate relationship with her patient's fiancé. The patient, who had been undergoing therapy for anxiety and abandonment trauma, reportedly discovered the betrayal firsthand. Leona stared at her screen. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from former classmates, ex-colleagues, even strangers. This story? It's you, isn't it? I went to Thelma's clinic once. Now I'm scared. Thank you for speaking out, even anonymously. Then came the messages from women who had suffered similar violations. People from all over, not just Nigeria. South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, London, Atlanta. One message stood out. Your story gave me the courage to report mine. I was silent for 2 years. Rena called later that night. You okay? I didn't think this would go this far. It needed to. Leona looked out her window at the bustling city lights. She took my safety, Rena. And I rebuilt it into a shield. Rena's voice softened. And now it's protecting others. The article trended for days. Debates raged online. Some called for tighter ethical controls on therapists. Others discussed betrayal and emotional abuse in relationships. The conversation was uncomfortable, but necessary. And in the center of it all, Leona remained silent. Letting her silence speak louder than any quote. The invitation arrived by email. Subject line. We'd be honored to have you speak. The message was from the Women's Mental Health Forum of West Africa. They were organizing a panel on therapeutic ethics, trauma recovery, and patient rights. Rena urged her. You don't have to name names. Just share your story. You've earned this. Leona hesitated. She remembered the tears, the vomit, the sleepless nights. But she also remembered that final moment, the door closing on Derek. The unshakable silence that followed. The peace. Yes, she finally typed. I'll speak. The day arrived. The venue was a mid-sized auditorium filled with survivors, therapists, advocates, and mental health workers. The air buzzed with anticipation. Leona stepped on stage in a tailored black suit. Her heels clicked confidently. A gold pin shaped like a phoenix sat on her lapel. She approached the podium. A moment of silence. Then she began. My name is Leona. I'm not here as a victim. I'm here as a woman who trusted the wrong people, and found herself in the ruins they left behind. The room fell still. For months I cried behind closed doors. My anxiety was dismissed. My boundaries were broken. My pain was used as a playground for people who should have protected it. Some nodded. A few dabbed their eyes. But I learned something, she continued. Healing isn't always soft. Sometimes it's loud. It's choosing yourself even when your voice shakes. She paused, letting the words settle. They broke my heart. But I built something from the pieces. Thunderous applause erupted. Later, dozens lined up to speak with her. One elderly woman gripped her hand. You said what we were too afraid to admit. That night, Leona sat alone on a bench outside the venue. The stars above her blinked as if nodding in approval. She closed her eyes. She hadn't just healed. She had become a lighthouse for others. It had been 6 months since Leona walked away from everything that once defined her. 6 months since the rooftop party where she peeled back the truth. Since the headline that ignited a national conversation. Since she looked into the face of betrayal and decided not to break. She no longer lived in the apartment she once shared with Derek. She traded the skyline for peace. Her hair was shorter now, her walk more deliberate. Therapy had resumed, this time with a woman named Dr. Faiza, who made no assumptions, asked the right questions, and never once called her strong as a compliment. And then came the letter. Neatly sealed. No return address. Delivered through the trauma center where she volunteered. Rena opened it for her first. "It's Thelma," she said simply. Leona sat very still. What does she want? A mandated mediation session. Legal requirement. She's been offered a rehabilitation route in exchange for license review and mandatory reconciliation therapy. You're allowed to decline. Leona took the envelope. She thought of walking away, again. But something in her paused. Closure isn't always peace and parting hugs. Sometimes it's standing in the room that once shattered you, and realizing it holds no power anymore. She showed up. The room was white, sterile, cold. Leona entered in a beige blazer and wide-leg slacks. No makeup. Just clear skin, a pen in hand, and a stillness in her eyes that only survivors possess. Thelma was already seated. Her once glamorous curls were pulled into a low bun. Her cheeks looked sunken, her eyes tired. They didn't greet each other. The mediator, a soft-spoken woman named Toke, offered the floor to Thelma. "I want to start by apologizing," Thelma said. Her voice was cracked. Smaller than Leona remembered. "I crossed boundaries I never should have. I exploited my role. I knew about your trauma, and I still violated your trust. I can't explain what happened without sounding selfish." Leona said nothing. Thelma swallowed. "Derek was charming. And I was lonely. But that doesn't excuse it. You came to me for healing, and I deepened your wound." Tears gathered in her eyes. "I lost my license, my clinic, my reputation. But more than that, I lost who I thought I was." Silence. Thelma looked up. "You can say whatever you need. You deserve that." Leona looked at her, not through anger but through clarity. "You didn't just take my trust. You made me question my sanity. You played doctor while stealing the very heart I was trying to protect. You used my secrets to get closer to him." Thelma nodded, tears falling. "You're right. But here's the part you didn't expect," Leona continued, voice steady. "You taught me what power really means. Not revenge. Not shame. Power is healing in public. Power is letting people like you speak, and still walking away free." She stood up, calmly collecting her bag. "I forgive you," she said. "But not for your sake." Thelma looked up. "For mine." And with that, Leona walked out. Outside the building, the sun peeked through the clouds. It was subtle. Warm. A promise. Rena was waiting by the car. "You did it?" Leona nodded. "How did it feel?" "Like placing the final piece of a puzzle I never wanted to build." They stood there in silence for a moment. Then Rena laughed. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "You never raised your voice. Not once. And still, everyone heard you." Leona smiled faintly. She opened her phone and pulled up her 4-piece folder. The one she once guarded like a sword. She selected everything, audio, video, photos. And deleted them. Every last file. Gone. "What are you doing?" Rena asked, startled. "I already won," Leona said. "And now I'm done carrying it." That night, as she crawled into bed, her body felt lighter. Her mind quieter. She had faced the storm. She had survived the betrayal. She had stood in the room where it all fell apart, and came out taller. Closure didn't look like fireworks. It looked like stillness. And this time it was hers. The apartment was modest, but it was hers. A second-floor walk-up with wide windows, quiet neighbors, and a balcony overlooking a courtyard garden where children played every evening. Leona stood barefoot on the cool tiles of her new bedroom, the morning sun casting golden ribbons through the sheer curtains. A hot cup of ginger tea steamed in her hand, and a low jazz record hummed in the background. She hadn't cried in weeks. Not out of repression, but because the ache had dulled. Not forgotten, no, but transformed. She walked to her full-length mirror, the one her mother had bought her at age 16 after her first heartbreak. "Stand here," Mama had said, "and don't look at the tears. Look at the girl who's still standing." Now, nearly 15 years later, Leona looked again. The woman who stared back was not broken. She wasn't angry. She wasn't waiting for an apology. She was alive. Unapologetically whole. Her phone vibrated on the nightstand. A reminder. Today, guest appearance, Voice of Healing podcast, 11 a.m. Leona chuckled softly. The irony wasn't lost on her. 6 months ago, she could barely whisper her story aloud. Now people invited her to share it, to teach, to lead. At 11 sharp, she logged into the podcast studio's Zoom link. The host, a vibrant Ghanaian woman named Amma, greeted her with a wide smile. Leona, welcome. We are so honored to have you here. Thank you for inviting me. I have to say, Amma continued, your silence made the loudest statement I've seen all year. Leona smiled gently. Sometimes the most powerful part of a story is what you choose not to say. They dove into the episode. They spoke about boundaries, betrayal, healing outside the spotlight. About therapy, its promise, its misuse. About learning to trust oneself again. About how healing isn't a destination but a commitment renewed every day. I remember waking up and thinking, Leona said, if I can survive this, then I owe it to myself to thrive. Amma leaned in. What would you say to someone who feels broken right now? Someone who's just discovered betrayal? Leona didn't hesitate. Document your truth. Sit with it. Don't rush to forgive. Don't perform strength. Let it hurt. Then, when you've gathered yourself, build. She paused. And when they come crawling back, and they will, remember, you don't owe anyone access to the version of you that healed without them. The chat window exploded with comments. Yes. She's speaking my life. I needed this today. Thank you, Leona. As the podcast ended, Amma said, you're the definition of turning pain into power. Leona shook her head gently. No. I'm just a woman who learned that silence can also roar. Later that evening she received a package. No return label. Just a sleek white box tied with gold ribbon. She hesitated for a second, then opened it. Inside was a slim black journal. Her old one. And a note. I'm returning what I never had the right to keep. I hope you find peace. Thelma. Leona traced the cover of the journal with her fingers. The one where she'd written her deepest fears, dreams, confessions. Where she once questioned her worth. Thelma had kept it even after the betrayal. And now she had let it go. Leona didn't cry. She closed the book and placed it on a shelf labeled Before. Then she went to her desk, pulled out a new leather-bound journal and opened to the first page. After. She underlined it. And began to write. Days later, she walked through a local art gallery. The trauma center had helped organize a healing exhibit. Paintings, spoken word, and photography all themed around reclaiming your voice. She stopped before a large oil painting of a woman kneeling in the rain, pieces of broken glass reflecting parts of her face. Above it, written in fine brush strokes. They broke me. But I picked up every piece. And from them, I built an empire. It wasn't signed. But Leona knew. It was her story. Reflected back in color. That night, she stood on her balcony, warm breeze teasing the hem of her robe. The city was quiet beneath her. She held her cup of tea in both hands. Her phone buzzed. Text from Rena. Can you believe how far you've come? Leona typed back. I can. Because I walked every step. She turned off her phone. The moon rose behind clouds. In the distance a child laughed. The world kept spinning. And Leona, finally fully, stood still. She turned once more to the mirror before bed. Smiled. Not the kind of smile you put on for others. But the kind that rises from your belly, when you realize you didn't just survive. You rewrote the story. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.